Perhaps we'll get going then. Again, welcome. I am Dwayne Wright. I'm a program coordinator with the Community Housing Transformation Center, as I will be calling from here on out the center. It's a lesser mouthful. We are here today to talk about the Community Housing Growth Fund, to provide an update on the fund to date, as well as speak on a few changes that have happened over the past year to the fund, so that you can apply better informed, and perhaps we can make the process a little smoother for you in the meantime. I would like to ask if anybody has any questions throughout the presentation, please throw those in the chat. We will definitely get to those before we say goodbye today. And also, if you can be mindful of your mic, try to make sure that's off unless we're engaged in a dialogue after the presentation. And you may have noticed this is being recorded, so it will be provided to folks who haven't been able to make it, or to yourself if you want to review the information down the road. Okay, I am going to start with land acknowledgement. So bear with me, I haven't had a chance to memorize this yet, and these words are important to me. So I'd like to take a moment to express my deep gratitude for the land that I find myself on today. I am situated in Mi'kma'ki, which is widely known today as Nova Scotia. For countless generations, the Mi'kmaq people have lived in relationship with this land as benefactors, caretakers, and stewards of this beautiful territory. They lived as one with the land until colonialism disrupted that harmony. In the 1700s, the treaties of peace and friendship were signed between the British Crown and the Mi'kmaq people. These treaties did not include surrender of the land. They were meant to establish enduring relationships based on peace, respect, and cooperation. I want to recognize the long and complex history of Black settlers and Acadian peoples in this province as well. Generations of Black Nova Scotians, including those who arrived as loyalists, Maroons, and refugees, have built communities and contributed immeasurably to the cultural and social fabric of this place, often in the face of systemic exclusion. The Acadian people as well share a deep history of connection to this land, marked by resilience, displacement, and renewal. As a descendant of colonial settlers, I acknowledge my place within these ongoing stories, and I commit to continuing to learn, unlearn, and grow, to listen to Indigenous, Black, and Acadian voices, and to play my part in advancing reconciliation, equity, and community within this land we share. Just last night, as I was putting my daughter to bed, she asked if she could sing me a song. She proceeded to sing a Mi'kmaq song that she had learned in class that day. It was an incredibly heartwarming moment, and one that reminded me that we are making small strides towards progress, but it also reminded me that we have a lot more work to do. So I offer this acknowledgement with deep respect and gratitude to the Mi'kmaq, past, present, and future caretakers of Mi'kma'ki, and to all those who continue to build and rebuild the community here. Okay, let me figure out how to share my screen, and we will jump into the presentation. Someone give me a thumbs up that you see that?
Yeah, it's working.
All right, perfect. So today we're going to talk about the Nova Scotia Community Housing Growth Fund, as well as the Black Community Housing Fund. They are relatively adjacent, a lot of similarities in terms of how the programs are laid out and how they play out, but a little bit of a different focus on who they're targeted towards, what communities are able to access these funds. So before we get into that, a little bit about the Community Housing Transformation Center, just in case you are new to us and you're not quite familiar. We have been created as a catalyst for the preservation of and growth of community housing within Canada. So we are a pan-Canadian organization. Here in Nova Scotia, we have the growth funds, as we mentioned. So within the center, we offer various services. We offer funding programs as well as tools and resources. In terms of technical resources, we have our resource inventory. It is a robust collection of resources, both from projects that we have funded and beyond. Our team have scoured the internet and the globe to pull a variety of resources together that can come to benefit your organization in its housing journey. I'm only going to touch briefly on the IT infrastructure. That's something that's being explored with our team, and that's not a lot of detail at the moment, but stay tuned. That could be something very exciting down the road. Our organizational compass is an amazing tool for housing organizations to go through a questionnaire, a survey to assess your position financially, your housing strategy position, your approach to tenant relations, marketing, everything involved in running a housing organization. And then at the end of your assessment, it gives you basically a roadmap as to highlighting some gaps of where you may be able to focus and strengthen your organization to better increase success going forward. RentSmart is an exciting new program that is not yet available nationally, but it's growing quickly. It's designed to as an education tool for both housing providers and tenants. So these are folks who would or programs that would, in a sense, teach you how to be a good landlord, teach you how to be a good tenant, show you the regulations and the ins and outs of the tenancy boards, experience, things like that. It's a very great program, and I'm eager for that to come to us in Nova Scotia. Community Housing Academy, slightly similar, but it's another training tool that is designed to strengthen the service provider aspect of community housing. And then we come to our funds. So this is the whole gambit of funds throughout the country. Nova Scotia has the Community Housing Growth Fund, Community Housing Capital Fund, which is a program where existing housing providers with experience and units under their belt can apply. It goes through a pretty extensive approval process, but you can help to get some funding for down payments for acquisitions and building your stock. I would encourage you to look into that if you're already an organization with housing stock available. The Newfoundland Community Housing Growth Fund, quite similar to Nova Scotia. That is a program that is actually wrapped up now very successfully. There have been a number of projects awarded there, and we're excited to see what comes to fruition. Nunalingi Palaret Fund. I was really hesitant to try and pronounce that. I don't say that one too often, and it definitely is a challenging word to say. But essentially that fund is available for Nunavut. It's very, very similar to the Community Housing Growth Fund as well. And then the Sector Transformation Fund, available nationally, has a local impact stream and a sectoral impact. So sectoral impact are projects that are benefiting the housing sector on a broad scale, whether that's throughout the province or beyond. And then the local impact projects would be more regionally specific to smaller locations. Within Nova Scotia, it's only the sectoral impact fund that's available through the sector transformation, since we have the Community Housing Growth Fund that covers the local impact projects. So, Community Housing Growth Fund came from a relationship between the province and the center, where the province assigned $7 million and the center contributed $550,000 to create the Growth Fund. Around a year after the Growth Fund was created, the province committed $2 million towards the Black Community Housing Fund. And when we go into the fund specifics, there are, again, as I said, a lot of mirrored approaches with the Black Community Housing Fund and the Nova Scotia Community Housing Growth Fund. It just comes down to who is being served. So with the Black Community Housing Fund, that is targeted for organizations that support, they are Black-led, Black-targeted, and Black-serving organizations. So we term that as the B3, and we'll go into the program specifics in a little bit. The first grant within the Black Community Housing Fund was awarded in 2023. It's intended to address systemic barriers. So we're looking at things like unfavorable zoning, lack of municipal services, environmental racism, displacement of communities didn't mean you're going to a better piece of land. Most often, you're going to a very unfavorable piece of land that might not even be possible for development, or at least required a ton of mitigation and preparation before it could be developed. So this fund is intended to try and address some of those elements of our history that are not so pleasant. We'll say that. And also to address an investment gap. The Black Community Housing Fund is intended to address the significant investment gap in Black community housing. There's not a lot moving into those communities to try and grow. Quick little overview of the history. The contract for the Community Housing Growth Fund was signed in 2022. First application by November and awarded by November 15th. And then we fast forward to March of 23, where the Black Community Housing Fund was brought into play. Another fast forward to October of 24, we had the changes in planning and pre-development. We're going to go into great detail about those today, which is one of the reasons why we're here. And then bringing us to today, to October 2025, 137 projects awarded in the Community Housing Growth Fund. And we'll go into some more statistical numbers about the Black Community Housing Fund as well as we go along. So what are these funds intended for? The objectives of both the Community Housing Growth Fund and the Black Community Housing Fund are to innovate and educate. We want to see the sector's abilities increase, the organizations who are engaged in developing and acquiring and growing the housing sector. We want to see more people with more capability of getting in and getting involved. There's a lot of big hearts and a lot of big intent, and we want to improve the ability to make that happen on a real basis. We want to identify gaps and grow capacity. So again, strengthening organizations, strengthening the sector, finding out areas that are not so strong and targeting efforts towards those and increasing their effectiveness. We want to address systemic barriers. That is a big challenge that I think we all need to kind of take along with us in our daily journey. And the Growth Fund is there to help address that as well. We want to improve leveraging abilities. So when folks receive funds through these programs, there's an expectation or a desire, a goal to have that improve their ability to move forward and to leverage other programs and other services that might help to increase their ability to impact the housing sector as a whole. Reduce the funding challenges. As a not-for-profit, I'm sure most of you out there are with not-for-profits, funding is a constant challenge. You are regularly applying for funds just to keep the doors open and the lights on. So we want to make that a little bit easier with the growth funds and to, of course, develop new resources. It's not all been written yet. So how can we sort of put our efforts towards increasing the effectiveness of what we're doing with trying to improve the housing sector as it is? The priority areas of both funds, again, these are very similar things, but keep in mind, please, with the Black Community Housing Fund, it's just with a different lens, with the B3 lens put on it. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to address those systemic barriers again. We want to build capacity within the sector. We want to see organizations increase their independence and their ability to be effective players in the housing sector. Leveraging as many supports as possible. It's tough to do things off the corner of your desk with most of the not-for-profits are faced with doing. So how can we help to leverage more supports going forward to give you more freedom, more independence, more autonomy in the work that you're doing? To, of course, address the housing need. And geographical equity is important. We don't want to see all the funds going into one specific location. Spreading those out and having the broader sectoral, provincial, for us, impact is very important for both funds. So to date, the Community Housing Growth Fund, the first application was received on November 1st of 2022. Fast forward to October 1st, and we have awarded 137 projects, just over 5 million allocated to those projects. And the Black Community Housing Fund, the first grant was awarded in August of 23. Fast forward to October 1st, and 16 applications were awarded at just over 500,000. Now let's talk about the funding streams specifically. We're going to start with capacity building. And its intent is to provide support for projects that are aimed at developing the skills and capacity of community housing organizations. So essentially, it's like going to the gym for your organization. How can we utilize these funds to create housing plans going forward to make sure that our board is as informed and prepared as they can to support the organization in its growth? So we're looking at activities like asset management plans, housing-focused strategic planning, board and governance manuals, things like that to improve the organizational ability to do this work and to do it effectively. This stream provides up to $50,000 for the activities, and I like the stream because of the creativity. I think that organizations have ideas about what is going to improve their organization. So I like to hear about that and the variety of ways that they can be creative to come together and enhance those competencies. And capacity building history, 51 applications were awarded funding since November of 22, and that's just over 2 million allocated. The Black Community Housing Fund is sitting in with six awarded applications at 289,000. And our big one, almost the spotlight of the show today, planning and pre-development. So this stream is intended to support the costs of pre-development activities related to community housing construction. Now it goes a bit beyond construction. We can look at acquisition as well. We'll get into those details a little bit more. So this can be used for preliminary studies, feasibility studies, risk analysis, and professional services to sort of help you get through those. The grant as itself is up to 75,000, but that comes with sort of a two-part approach. And this is where things changed a bit last year. And some folks might be apprised of the changes, but maybe not in this detail. So we'll hopefully answer some questions through this. So part one of the planning and pre-development is the feasibility. And feasibility, I'm coming to learn, is a bit of a spectrum in terms of how folks approach it and how they view it. Some look at financial feasibility, some look at the land feasibility, some look at the organizational feasibility, and those are all very important pieces to this picture. But as the Community Housing Growth Fund is concerned, feasibility in this situation is looking at site feasibility. We want to make sure that that land can be developed. And if there's any roadblocks that we're going to run into in that whole process, and if we are these roadblocks that we can afford to overcome, or are these project killers in some ways, for lack of a better term? So pertaining to the site itself, it's the process of determining whether a proposed site is suitable for housing development. This could be physical, legal, environmental, regulatory conditions that basically impact the viability of the project. So ESAs, geotechnical studies, topographic. In the case of property acquisitions, we look at building condition assessments as well. So you can get a clearer idea of what the property condition is so that you're not purchasing something that's going to drain your bank account in repairs and perhaps land mitigation even. So feasibility portion is up to 25,000. So it's up to 25,000 out of that 75. The math might get a little complicated, but I'm going to try to explain it clearly. So after the feasibility, you would go through those activities. If your studies come back and say, this land is great, let's move forward, that unlocks part two, which is the pre-development portion. So that is up to a max of 75. This is the math I'm going to try to not make too convoluted for you. So feasibility is up to 25. If you use all 25 and studies come back great, that unlocks the remaining 50 for you to do your pre-development activities. If you only use 20,000 out of that 25, then you're going to have access to 55 if those studies come back. So what you don't use in feasibility can be applied to pre-development, but it all hinders on the results of those land studies to determine that the land is indeed viable. So what is the pre-development work? That's basically any other pre-development activities that help to align your project with provincial or federal funding. We talked earlier about the importance of leveraging other resources. So one of the benefits or one of the intentions of our programs are to help position your organization in basically a state of readiness to qualify for these other larger federal and provincial funding opportunities. So you might look at impact studies, some design drawings, quantitative surveys, things like that. Up to date so far, 75 applications were awarded funding in the stream, and that's just under $3 million allocated. For the Black Community Housing Fund, 5 applications awarded at just under 200,000. The last stream in the Growth Fund and in the Black Community Housing Fund is research and innovation. So these are studies and activities that are intended to provide innovation, education, and knowledge transfer within the community housing sector. So how can we improve how we do what we do with the housing sector and new approaches, best practices, things like that. And the research and innovation grants are a max of 25,000. So far, 11 applications have been awarded funding at $225,000, and the Black Community Housing Fund has 2 applications awarded at 31,000. So that's essentially the funds in a nutshell. There's not a possibility of including all of the details in there. So I'm leading to this next slide of the benefits of speaking to a program manager. I am a program manager. I love speaking with folks like you, and I think that it's beneficial to the process for us to have a conversation before you get too far into your application process. The application process can take time. It can take a lot of time depending on your experience, your familiarity, your comfort with it. So I find a benefit in being able to chat with organizations and representatives prior to that to gauge what the project ideas are, what your goal is. Let's get an idea of your organization, your board experience and composition. And essentially, we're here to make this process as easy as possible for you without doing it for you. So these conversations really help lay the foundation for collaboration to ensure that your project has the most possibility for success within our approval process. So, we can discuss the general eligibility of those activities, again, possibly save you time. Knowledge sharing, and there might be things that you weren't considering as you enter into this project. There's definitely some experience that we as program managers might have that could come to benefit how you approach the project, and just to support you through the process itself. Here is the process. What is the process? So for both the Community Housing Growth Fund and the Black Community Housing Fund, the process is the same. The applicant, that's you go to our website, center.support, and you make your profile within our portal called Portico. You would then choose your funding stream. You would find an option to either start your application and just go with it, or to contact a program manager. And that's the one I do encourage you to start with. Let's have those conversations. But essentially, your process, you go through, you complete the application, you submit it, comes to one of us. We'll review it. We'll liaise with you back and forth. This is one of the things I enjoy about the program, is to go back and forth and help strengthen the application as much as possible. We see a lot of them. We can make recommendations. It's up to you to make the choice of incorporating those or going with your own original vision. And from there, it goes to our director for approval after the program managers have reviewed the application. If the director has any concerns or questions or comments, we might go back. They might come to us, and then we'll go back to you as the organization, have some back and forth dialogue to clarify those. Once the director is happy with it, it goes to the selection committee, and the selection committee gives the final approval. Essentially, I'll tell you a little bit more about who the selection committee is after this slide here. So Selection committee approves your project. Congratulations. We create a contract, a grantee agreement essentially, and we send that out for signature. Once that comes back, your project is operational. It starts, we can ship out the first payment and you go. We check in with you throughout the process. We want to make sure that things are going as smooth as possible. If there's any help that we can provide, it's good to have those interactions, or you can feel free, please, to reach out to your program manager as this is going along. If there's a possibility of, us helping to smooth out a speed bump. And that's the process. So who can apply? Basically, as you see, there's a lot of duplication here for all of the funds, both Community Housing Growth Fund and Black Community Housing Fund. Again, keeping in mind, Black Community Housing Fund falls under the B3 requirements. So nonprofit housing providers, co-op housing providers, nonprofit organizations, and community and regional groups. They can apply to all three streams, and then looking at research and innovation, academic institutions are also open to apply. Not every organization or everyone is prepared to go into doing a research project, as it were. And academics institutions, it used to be that you had to partner with them. They have the opportunity to do that alone now, but I think that there is certainly benefit in partnering with organizations to help create some studies that might improve the sector. I do see Kelly has your hand up. Did you want to throw your question in the chat there, Kelly, right quick? We're honestly almost done the presentation here, and we can spend the rest of our time chatting about questions. Who is the selection committee? So the selection committee for both funds consists of a member from the center, a member from Department of Growth and Development, and 3 community members that are industry professionals in various capacities pertaining specifically to each individual fund stream. And then there's an exception with the Black Community Housing Fund. There is a representative from African Nova Scotian Affairs on that list as well. Why? Well, transparency for one. We want to involve the community. We want to pool on the community's experiences and knowledge. While we might be in the center of some of these activities, there are certainly experts out there whose experience and knowledge we need to rely on sometimes. And it's good to have a little bit of a distance there with the approvals. The committee is very great to deal with. We rotate members throughout the years as well, so it's not always the same people. That would be our selection committee. So, summary of changes: planning and pre-development increased to 75. Part 1, Part 2, feasibility, pre-development, separate. They're contingent upon, or the second Part 2 is contingent upon Part 1. If you are applying to the stream, you already have your land feasibility done. You've got an ESA that says, go, green light. Let's talk about that. We might be able to skip past the need for the feasibility section and unlock a full 75 for pre-development. We just need to verify that all the information is up to speed. There we are. I would like to open it now to questions, and unfortunately, I don't see them. If I stop sharing my screen. Chat, okay. Pauline, yes, we will be sharing the presentation. Sorry, I didn't catch you beforehand. I guess Allison got that. Oh, I guess we don't have any questions. Kelly was fooling us with her hand up. Are there any questions out there? Is there a rolling intake? Yes, Lisa, it is. There's no deadlines for submission at this point. Anyone else? Wow, are you telling me that I wrapped this up in 30 minutes? Last call for questions. Oh, there is, you notice in the applications that there is a deadline? Trish, were you looking into the Sector Transformation Fund, or did you notice that on the Community Housing Growth Fund?
Sorry, that was on the growth fund when I opened up the application. There was a January date that it had to be submitted by.
Yeah, there's some tentative dates in place right now, and there's also some conversations happening. So I would just, at this point, I would encourage folks that if you do have a project and you want to apply, apply. Or, let's talk with the program manager as well, but apply. Yeah.
Okay, I just thought that might be a good point of clarification for others that might be applying and seeing that date and concerned.
Yeah, I think that that date was part of an older contract, and I'm pretty confident that that things will move forward. And give some examples of the innovation fund stream. Wow, Nancy, that is honestly a tough one. I find it quite challenging sometimes to talk at detail of what can come from research and innovation. I think that it's such a broad possibility. That for me, it feels exciting to not label it and to hear about project ideas as to what you think might be a great research project for the sector. Right now, I can tell you that we're working on trying to identify some sector gaps. And so there might be a little more ability to target some research down the road where we say, okay, well, we noticed that there is a gap here. Is there anyone who might be interested in or able to conduct some research on that? But for now, we're quite eager to hear from organizations in regards to their projects. What has been done so far? I don't have those stats right offhand, Nancy. I'm sorry. Um, I'm thinking of an ADU backyard suite research. The stream is also available to organizations to attend educational events in certain percentages of the to cover certain percentages of the cost. So that's definitely been used for that as well for groups to attend various events.
Yeah, I can jump in as well there. So
Yeah,
other
sure.
things it's being used to look at is reviews of programs that have been implemented. So we've funded organizations to do like look at the data and the success rate of larger scale housing programs that have been implemented. We also worked with Affordable 360 to provide funding for their program through the research and innovation stream for a pilot project to look at expanding their services or their suite of technology to Nova Scotia. And then I'm just looking quickly down the list. We provided funding as well to work to NS-BCHGF for support in delivering community housing development workshops in Nova Scotia. So that was for them when they were working with CADCO to do the Go No Go workshops in Nova Scotia. There was funding was provided through that to do another workshop in I believe it was St. Margaret's Bay. Yeah, so they're just a couple of examples of things that we funded.
Excellent. Thanks for your question, Nancy, and thanks for your jumping in on there, Allison. Any more questions?
I could just add to that. Sorry, I couldn't find the hand button here. So
It's okay.
are there any reports? Are these reports on those innovation projects or are they available? Like, how do we, if there's anything innovative, can we get a report on it?
Jamie, do you know if those have been added to the research inventory?
If I can just jump in there, so not all of the projects that were funded through here have completed yet. So the couple that I mentioned with regards to the different housing models are still a work in progress, so they haven't completed yet. And a couple of the other ones that I mentioned also haven't completed. But if there are reports that come out of projects and that we have the permission from the organization to share, then we can definitely do that. It would just be how looking at how we'd be able to share that.
Mhm. Nancy, I would encourage you though, if you have some time to go onto our website at center.support and take a search through our resource inventory. They might not all be Nova Scotia specific, but no doubt there is going to be a lot of transferable information in a lot of those reports. So I would direct you there. I think that has a valuable benefit to the sector.
I will do that. Thanks for all your answers. Thanks, Allison.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I guess at this point, if no one has any further questions, I will let you have the rest of your hour back. Thank you very much for joining me here today and for listening to the updates. As has been discussed in the chat, the presentation will be made available to folks, and the recording of the webinar itself will also be available as well. And with that, thank you. Have a great day.